Watch Transit TV right now.
Keep watching Transit TV.
The entire team. There are so many players in that squad that will take you to jail, and they will jail you for life. And that some of these players, somebody like Bruno Fernandes, he has been used in different roles. There are places on that pitch you cannot use Bruno Fernandes if you want to win games. Leave him up top. In terms of creating chances, he is one of the best in the league. He can score goals, score some very like the one he scored today. But when you want to play him in the central midfield, where he's going to have to the studios Saturday EPL roundup. Yeah, what a day. It's been gotten some very intriguing and fascinating results today. First game of the day, Everton are home to Liverpool. That game was cancelled, and it's going to be rescheduled sometime next year. And I don't know, sometimes you don't know if this one is good to have a game in hand, but a lot of times, especially for ex-players, they say it's always better to have points on the board than to have game in hand. And yeah, if Arsenal and Chelsea manage to win their games tomorrow, they would have cut the point gap between them and Liverpool to 4 points, which makes it very, very easily attainable and opens up the title challenge again to reachable point gap between them and Liverpool. Yeah, and we'll move to Aston Villa. Now, I think this should be their first. They have a back-to-back win, the EPL. They've been very abysmal after a strong start into the season. But today, again, they got a one-goal win over Southampton. Southampton tried everything they could to get back to that one, or at least get a draw. But somehow, Aston Villa stood to their guns. Solitary goal from Duran. You remember he has been a solution for Aston Villa coming out from the bench, and for like 7 games now he hadn't scored. Today, Emery stuck with him, started with him in the game, and he delivered, scored the only goal of that game that gave Aston Villa a 1-goal win over Southampton. Brentford, very surprising win today, 4-2 at home to Newcastle. Newcastle have continued to be what they have been for the past few years under Eddie Howe. In fact, he got a lot of praises taking over reins from at Newcastle, but somehow I think they have stunted in their growth, in their development. Newcastle had just become a team very inconsistent. Sometimes they get some results that you don't expect. Then remember last weekend, they almost won Liverpool, but somehow, that game ended 3-3. Today, one would have thought that they will, beat Brentford or somehow get a draw at least. But surprisingly, Brentford cleaned them out today, securing a 4-2 win over Newcastle, who, for me, were a shadow of themselves. But don't take anything away from Brentford. Those guys under Thomas Frank, according to Pep Guardiola, is one of the best in the league. Sometimes when they bring their A game, one thing you cannot take away from Brentford is that they score goals and they can play football as well. So that sometimes they are very weak defensively. But today, they stuck to their guns and beat Newcastle 4-2. Crystal Palace earlier in the day as well had a 2-2 draw against Manchester City. City again continued their abysmal performance or results. They've now won just 1 game in their last 9 games in all competitions. This is unbelievable. Nobody thought that this will happen. At least not under Pep Guardiola, but it is for real. And it's really looking very, very more and more likely that Manchester City are not going to come out of this in any time soon. They won their game last week, and one who thought they would have continued today. Though personally, I didn't expect them to win today. I thought it was going to always be a difficult game for them. Going to Newcastle is always very tricky. And by the way, Newcastle are one of those teams, Crystal Palace are one of those teams that are kind of underrated because of their ability. They can actually play football. It's just two things. One should be they don't have finishers in that team. They create chances against teams, but they find it difficult most times to win their games. To score goals, to take their chances. And sometimes they can be very weak defensively. When they don't score, they tend to concede the last-minute goals. Yeah, but when they bring their A games to to matches, they usually get results. So yeah, that's what happened today. In fact, if any team, Manchester City, we are lucky to have gone home with 1 point today, because if you ask me, if you want to be fair, Crystal Palace opened up City multiple times today and supposed to have finished that game maybe like 5-2, if anything. But somehow, this is football. If you don't score goals, you don't win games. So Crystal Palace refused to take their chance, refused to finish their breakfast, and City managed to stay and got 1 point out of this one. But the game for this review, of course, Manchester United are home to Nottingham Forest. One would have thought that United would have continued their kind of impressive results, though their coach has always insisted, Amorim has always insisted that it's not going to don't take the results as the kind of resurgence for United, that you can still see cracks on the wall, which I also see. So, but let's look at this. Let's look at answer a few questions. Newcastle, how do they come out of this one? Become consistent. I think it's becoming more and more obvious that they probably might have to look elsewhere in terms of coaching. I think Eddie Howe looks like he's out of his depth. He's done what he can. That team, I don't think they're going to develop more than this under him. I don't know if it's FFP. They have quality players in that team. You can talk about injuries, but every team has injuries. Newcastle, the quality they have in that team, I don't think that they're developing or they're improving anymore. City, do you think Pep can fix this? Again, he's also looking more and more unlikely that with this present squad that Pep Guardiola can bring City back to consistency. They have City, I believe, need to sign players because Pep Guardiola, we know, as good, as phenomenal he has been as a coach, he always works with the best of qualities. And I don't think right now he has those qualities. And a lot of the key players in that team are now looking like spent forces. People like Kyle Walker, KDB, Gundogan, and Bernardo Silva. These are the people that he has relied on in the past years to get City back into winning ways when they cannot falter. But when you look at City now play and look at these four players that I just mentioned, you don't see anything that can inspire their teammates to improve or do better or get them back to their team. KDB looks very physically drained and physically spent. Kyle Walker is more and more. Most of the time, his pace used to get him out of jail, but now he has lost 1 or 2 yards in his pace, and the quality as well is not looking good. Again, today, he gave away the second goal. He was comprehensively beaten in that corner kick, in that set piece, and it was shameful to see that has been attributed to Kyle Walker. Bernardo Silva looks like he's out. He doesn't even look like he wants to be there. Gundogan physically is gone. I never believed that buyback from Barcelona was going to work out, and it has proven to be so. So you're looking at these generals in the team, that's what I call them, and the way they're performing and their body language and their physical abilities, and sometimes psychological as well. When you look at their faces, you don't see any way coming back with this one. So can Guardiola fix this particular squad? I don't think he can get them back to consistently winning games and imposing himself on teams, except he is going to go get some key players, maybe in January, because with these 4 players and the people like Idoku, Savinho, Nunes that was brought to the team the last 2 seasons, I don't see City going back to the top. Then United, 2, Nottingham Forest 3. What has been the secret for Nottingham Forest? You remember that when Nuno Espirito Santo was coaching Tottenham, he lost his job against Manchester United 3 years ago, 2 years ago. What has he done? What has he done? You know, people learn from experiences. He has lost. He used to coach Wolves, went to Tottenham. He didn't last on that job, and he got this Nottingham Forest job. And one thing I have seen that probably he has learned is he has stuck to, believed in his process, believed in what he wants to do with his team, and trusted his players, and a little bit calmer and not be too defensively minded and playing on a counter. Now he tends to try to play, and the quality of the players that he has in that team is showing. You remember Nottingham Forest bought a lot of players 2 seasons ago, and it takes time for players to gel, especially when you buy a large number of players like that. So now those players are gelling, and it's beginning to trust them, and their quality is showing. Today, they didn't look phased. They didn't look like a team that has never won at Old Trafford. They came to Old Trafford, came with a plan, and tried to execute that plan, and that just was it. And that takes us to Manchester United. What have we learned from Amorim? One thing, number one, there is a philosophy. You can see what he's trying to do. You can see how he wants to play. You can see one thing that United fans have been crying out for under Erik ten Hag was, what is he trying to do? What is our style? With Amorim, just in 4 or 5 games, you can see what he's trying to do. You can see how he wants to play. That's one thing we've learned from him. 2, he wants his team to play high up the pitch. The way that team is structured, he wants 5, 6 players always in the opponent's half, regardless. Players are meant to stay up top and put pressure and win turnovers high up the pitch and convert them. So you can see that, and United are now scoring goals consistently. In the last 2 games, they lost against Arsenal 2-0. Today they lost against Nottingham Forest 3-2, but I think they scored goals. The games before that, they scored 4-0 against Everton. The Everton was very better than them for me for the beginning of that game, but eventually United came up and won. The other one, they would have won 2-0 and like that. So they are scoring goals and maybe looking a little better defensively as well. So you can see that. And one other thing I've learned from Amorim in the negative side is he's making far too many changes in games. In EPL, you have to create consistency, chemistry, and relationships in your pitch, in your team. You can't keep changing teams every other game. I know you're trying to learn about your team, but give team players run of games. Let them understand themselves. Let them build relationships, and from there you can, start changing what you see. But I think he's changing too many in every lineup and within games as well. So yes, you can say he doesn't know what his first team is, though he claims that he does. But I don't think he will succeed in EPL if he comes with this philosophy that, if you don't play with this next weekend, I'll drop you. If you play with this week, next week you play. Or if you play with this week, you play over the weekend. No, you need to have some consistency. Trust players. Let them understand that you trust them and give them that confidence to play. That's one thing I think he needs to learn. I have seen from him that he needs to learn. Secondly, is you can have your philosophy, you can have your ideology, you can have how you want to play, but do you have the right tools to execute that philosophy or that style? So as long as you try to implement that style, you have to also adapt it a little bit to suit the strength of the squad that you have. Then you build from there. As you start to bring the players that suit your philosophy, then you go full blown and implement it. But the way it looks like United do not have the players to execute what he's trying to do. And the way the size of Manchester United, regardless of what you're trying to do, you don't really have that time. So if you go 5 games and lose, regardless of the philosophy, the style, the fans are going to come on your back and it's going to unsettle everything. So I think Amorim needs to try to adapt a little bit to what the abilities of the players that he has in that squad, so that results can go their way. Then maybe January, if they had the allowance, add 1 or 2, let 1 or 2 go in the summer like that. So it's going to take like 2 or 3 transfer windows to get United where they want to be. But if he continues to do this and results don't go their way, he probably, then you create that divide between the fans. And once fans, half of the fans are for and against you, then it becomes a problem. Once you have a toxic environment in and around the pitch, you go back to exactly where you're coming from. And regardless of how good he is, that might smell bad for him and the team. What has the next question is what Amorim has learned about this team. What I believe he has learned is that these players, this bunch of players as a group, can take you to jail. So he needs to quickly identify those who he can go to war with and persist with them. The kind of what Maresca did in Chelsea. Know who you can take to war, stick with them, and the other ones, find way to get them out of the team or use them sparingly. But if you want to go with the entire team, there are so many players in that squad that will take you to jail, and they will jail you for life. And that some of these players, somebody like Bruno Fernandes, he has been used in different roles. There are places on that pitch you cannot use Bruno Fernandes if you want to win games. Leave him up top. In terms of creating chances, he is one of the best in the league. He can score goals, score some very like the one he scored today. But when you want to play him in the central midfield, where he's going to have responsibility in terms of defensive responsibilities, you're not going to get anywhere, anything good from this team. And a few of them like that. Rashford, first 2 games did well. All of a sudden he's on the bench. Rashford has become a recurring decimal in United's. Coaches have come and gone, and he's still there. Fantastic player, but somehow I think there is something that is linking Rashford to what United. In fact, Rashford represents what United has been since Alex Ferguson left that team. And if you're not going to have him consistently on the team, you probably might have to let him go, because I think between Rashford, Maguire, and some of these players, there is a link between what they represent and the result they have gotten over the years. So you need to figure out what you want to do with him. So he would have learned that, and he should have learned that and know what exactly he wants to do. Like I said, identify the player that he wants to take with him to war and not try to carry everybody along. So what went wrong today in this game? I think United, they have considered 7 goals now from corner kicks. This is the worst in the league. So United, 2 minutes into the game, you consider your first goal through corner kick. Same thing against Arsenal, considered 2. Today again, considered a header. I think it was second phase of a corner kick. That's not good enough. And Onana needs to look at himself today. I know he has bailed this team out so many times, but today he was very, very abysmal, very indecisive in aerial balls and defensively as well. I think today Amorim and his team got a little bit rude. And what do I mean? They kind of disrespected Nottingham Forest by the way he set up the team and the way United played against Nottingham Forest. It looks like he did not do his own work very well, because Nottingham Forest is a team that has won. I think they beat Liverpool this season. The only team that beat Liverpool this season. They beat last season. I think they beat United as well at home and drew at Old Trafford. I can't remember. I know they have gotten some very big results this season and last season. So if you understand that, you don't set up your team that way. And they have some very good players, attacking players going forward. So I think the major reason why United lost today is because they kind of underrated Nottingham Forest, both the coach and the players. And by the time they realized it, it was too late. Then, of course, individual mistakes caused them as well, which is what we have been seeing in United for some years now, for a few seasons now. So, yeah, Amorim, good stuff. Coming, done some changes, shown that coaching can make the difference. But, I mean, he needs to adapt a little bit if he really wants to succeed in Manchester United. This group of players cannot take you to the promised land. So identify those you can take to war, stick with them, and start to find a way to get rid of the ones you don't want and bring in the player that will work with you. Because this business is a result-based business. Regardless of identity, philosophy, how you want to play, changes that you make. If results don't go your way, if you consistently lose games, you're going to create a divide within the fan base. And once that happens, the environment continues to be toxic, and of course, it's not going to be suitable for anybody to work. And once you create you don't manage to eliminate that, you are always going to be in trouble. So yeah, let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not done so. Put your comments in the comment section. What do you think happened to Manchester United today? Manchester United fans out there, let me know what you think happened to your team today. What have you learned from Amorim's approach? What are the lessons that he should have learned? What are the changes he needs to implement, going forward? City, can they still come out of this mess? Can Pep Guardiola fix this? Or should you maybe honorably resign? Or should City, at what point does City start to look for another manager? Just one win in 9 games, about 5 or 6 losses. This is unprecedented. This is nobody could have related this to Manchester City or Pep Guardiola some few months ago. So how do City and Pep Guardiola and the team come out of this mess? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I will see you again tomorrow.